This is Jeremiah. We're going to get back to video number 5. Here should be 5, 4, 5, 6 area. I might re-enumerate them. But let's get going as we're wrapping up Don't Hurt the Protestant. Well, I'm just about done with this. This should be the last video. The last one should have been the last video, but I decided to talk about a few other lessons I have and maybe tie in as I did He Who Now Restrains, talking about Don't Hurt the Protestant. How these two lessons, which are in a row here, I just finished revising He Who Now Restrains, and how it really ties in with this. Don't hurt the Protestant. The devil's going to show up, and he's going to be on steroids, and God's going to let him be on steroids, and the main job that he's going to do is to attack people who don't worship him, who don't want to practice evil, because that's what the devil does. He goes after people who don't want to practice evil. He goes after them. And people who love kindness and love and truth and honesty, he attacks vigorously. Now, there's a mediator who is all-powerful, who is watching all of this war go down. We wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities and powers. Now, God is going to let you wrestle. That's the point. Every now and then, he'll crush Satan under your feet, as Paul said, but he may allow the devil to arrest you, like he did John and put John in prison, who was a very, very good Christian man, who was not being punished. He was being chastened, and he was on the potter's wheel of the Lord. And the point is that we don't know when you're going to enter into these situations where the powers of evil are going to take over you. When Jesus was arrested, he called it evil's hour. In other words, it's just being allowed. And it happens to the best of us. And the best of us is the master for sure. So I wanted to talk about that and tie that together. Don't hurt the Protestant is a big issue pertaining to the pre-tribulation and tribulation period, because we're obviously seeing a big attack right now of the evil parties of this world gaining more power, especially here in the United States and so forth. Abortion and so forth was here for about 50 years now, and it started with actually Bill Gates' dad and a couple of movie stars. I don't want to mention names, but a couple of movie stars' parents. They started the Planned Parenthood, which was number one goal was to stop the genocide against the African American and Africans also, and they've been very successful at doing that. However, the banks were tied in, presidents, unfortunately, and a lot of the entities of our government were tied in. They also joined hands with Hitler, Planned Parenthood, Bill Gates' dad, and so forth. All these people, they've been tied in together with powers. And you can see why being very wicked can promote you. This is why a lot of people want to hurt Protestants, because there's a lot of excitement for a wicked person to hurt and harm people. They get their jollies off of doing that. And unfortunately, for mankind, God is allowing it to happen to a certain extent, and that's just the way it goes. The opportunity to be saved and to come to Jesus Christ is the big deal, because it doesn't matter what happens to your body or to your family or your friends per se. The bottom line is what's going to happen to you when you're confronted with the gospel of Jesus Christ. And once you've entered into that gospel and you begin to preach the name of Jesus and you called upon the name of Jesus, you're going to be saved. And it doesn't matter what the Gates family or the Planned Parenthood do, whether they sterilize an African American, or a lot of sterilization by this organization, unfortunately, which worked with the KKK, the Freemasons, and some of the cults. Because the devil is united, in case you didn't know that. So death and racism, and demon doctrines and damnable heresies and murder and communism, and the Muslims. And isn't it interesting that the drug cartel and all these people are basically what? One group. They work together. And their goal is to practice evil. And the Lord allows all of this to happen, number one, because of Adam and Eve. We were all born into a situation that God has allowed to exist based upon that one sin and the sins of the humans themselves. So when you combine your parents' sin and your sin together, it's bad news. It's justice, and that's the way God has weighed things out. Now the good news of all of this is that coming to the Son removes everything. But it does not remove necessarily the conditions of your human body. And that's quite clear in the commandments and the lives of the converts and saints that we read from, like John. So it gets a little complicated, doesn't it? But the bottom line is that he who now restraineth, and that lesson and the lesson don't hurt the Protestant are tied in together. That we're at the end of the world right now, 6,000 years. God always shows up with horns on number 7. On number 7 you hear horns, and those horns represent the shofar of the Hebrews, of Moses and Aaron. And that shofar announces a festival. And the festival that horn announces is judgment and assessment. That's what 7 means. 7 means a rest, but it's not just a rest. It's an assessment of what works were done. God rested on the 7th day, and he saw that his works were good. So he looked at his works. What God does on number 7 is he enters into the picture. That's why the 6th seal in the seals of the book of Revelation is just mankind killing mankind. It's diseases that mankind has manipulated. They just found out that the COVID disease was made by your tax dollars in America. That COVID was made and produced in with the monies and the direction of the government of the United States. And of course Pfizer and these other organizations that are companies that can produce these vaccines and these diseases and so forth. In other words, the same people that created the disease created the vaccine. Because they're like little devils that are planning all of this, and God's letting them do all of this. And once again, it's based upon Adam and Eve's sin and our sin. We have no grounds to declare, God, stop what's going on. There's no grounds for you to declare that God should not legally allow all of what's going on to go on. Now, some people grapple with that and they can't deal with that. Now, I don't have a problem with that. I see justice, as we look at our biblical astrology here, that's number 2. That's Libra. God has to balance the scales because he's a righteous judge. An honest judge will pass out punishment for just actions. That's the way it goes. Now, what's wonderful is that children who enter into the ramifications of all this can never go to hell. Children don't go to hell. They're not at the age of accountability. Only adults go to hell. So this is one significant issue. The second significant issue is that adults have a way out by coming to the Son for 2,000 years, okay? And that's the beauty of the gospel. And the church is the one that restrains what's going down. Obviously, the Lord is allowing the restraining to exercise. In other words, the lawlessness, God is allowing to stretch their muscles out. But he's always done that. Some people are freaking out online in 2021 right now. But there's no need to freak out because fluctuations of the devil's power have always, but he's still restrained. That's the point. He's still restrained. Okay? Until the church is taken out of the way, the lawless one will not be revealed. Because as long as people are getting saved and people are preaching like me and hungering and thirsting after righteousness and seeking to love the Lord with all of our heart, soul, mind, and strength, all of these Biden-type devils, or whoever they are, I'm not picking on any person, but all of these politicians, liars, and partiers, and hedonistic people, and sick people, they'll never overrun the entire church. Never. The church has to be taken out of the way. That's what that scripture means in Thessalonians. You gotta get people out of the way who can pray hard. Christians can pray hard enough to almost wipe the devil out. If my people pray, God says He'll come to your aid. So a lot of this has to do with fluctuations of prayer, church activity, but the bottom line is that the Lord is going to restrain, leaving all these fluctuations aside. There's going to be a certain amount of restraining, and I've had fifth graders who we can move on. But I wanted to add that lesson a little bit with what's going on, because the people who are attacking innocent people, like a lot of Americans, they're hurting the Protestant. You're hurting America when you allow people in this country who are going to take the economy away from the people, and pretty soon people are going to pay $15 worth of gas for a gallon of gas so they can take care of the people who just crossed the border, who are getting more benefits than the American citizen. That's not justice. That's not fair. What that is they're harming the Protestant. And God's going to let it go so far, and then He'll just poof you out of here. You get that? So I wanted to add on a little bit what's going on today with both of these lessons and tie them in briefly, because I'm done with don't hurt the Protestant. It's a rather simple concept. The word the Master uses is offend, and it's a broad word. He refers to it as you being offended, of course, physically and psychologically in your church activities. Pray this mountain be removed and cast into the sea. The Pharisees were in the way of the 11 disciples, 12 in the book of Acts, getting to work. They were in the way. They were in the way of everybody. In the Old Testament, and when Jesus comes along, they're blocking salvation. And again, they're just blockers, and they are harming the Protestant. They're harming the people who are productive, who are binding up the brokenhearted, who are teaching the truth, and not putting shackles on people psychologically, which the Pharisees did. TV people put shackles on. I had a relative who was worried about doubting God. Oh, I doubted God, the preacher said, for 10 seconds. I'm going to be wiped out. See, this is what happens with these people. They tell you lies. God is not going to demand that anybody have perfect faith. That is asinine. Sarah laughed in the face of Almighty God that she wasn't going to have a baby, but God gave her a baby anyway. God doesn't give things to perfect people, perfect faith, and all this nonsense on TV. All they're doing is putting restraints on people. They're putting burdens on people that they themselves, the Master said, can't carry. They can't carry perfection. Why are they teaching perfection? They're not obeying the entire law, as Paul said in Galatians. So why are they teaching that you have to do this? Get circumcised, pay 10%, pay 20%. Why are they making all these demands that somehow give you points with God? Giving money to God does not give you points with God. You can't earn any points with God. The only reason you communicate with God is based upon the 100% finished work of Jesus Christ. That's how you communicate with God, period. Now, does it mean that you're not supposed to do good things? That God requires that you show love, as James said? That's not the point. Because I ask you to clean the bathroom in the church, and I see how good of a job you do, I'm not a self-righteous individual. I'm doing what's normal. I'm checking to see how well of a job you clean the bathroom. I'm not self-righteous. I don't belong to the demonic witnesses or the Mormons because I'm checking that you clean the toilet. I'm supposed to check to see you clean the toilet. That's all James is saying. I should see some love activity out of you. You keep telling me about how you're a born-again man. Okay, let's see some love. There's nothing wrong with asking someone for that at all. Now, if you ask them how many times they did something and you leave out the finished work of Jesus Christ, that's when we start getting into heresy. You start demanding you did 12 things, and you didn't do this, you should have did that, and Frank did 12, you did 11, and that's kindergarten fake Christianity. That's not real Christianity. That's a cult, a C-U-L-T. Real Christianity is, I want to see some love activities out of you, but I'm not going to keep track of them, and it doesn't mean you've earned anything with God. Let's put it that way. When James says he wants to see love works, he's not saying that I want to see evidence that you are going to earn points with God. That's what they believe. That's why it's called a damnable heresy, and they're entering into judgment because the only relationship you have with God is based upon the finished work of Jesus Christ. He paid it all. You can't introduce some data of something you did as significant. It's not going to work. And on the other side of the coin, you have people who say that I'm not going to do anything. That's the truth. I'm going to sit here. Well, there may be a time for you to sit here. The master said that Mary was doing a good thing, sitting there doing nothing. Martha was very busy being a Jehovah's Witness, a demonic witness. And the Lord said, no, Martha, Martha, you're doing the inferior thing right now. You're into works right now, and Mary's sitting here just resting in the finished work of my ministry. Mary's doing the superior thing. It doesn't mean that Martha working was wrong. That's why the master told Martha that what you're doing is the inferior thing, which means what she was doing was good. That's the point. Martha was doing the good thing, but Mary was doing the superior thing. Christianity is a little complicated. It's not, kindergarten's over here. We're here to use our heads. I got to use my head. Christianity is a little complicated, and that's the way God wants it to be. He doesn't want, I saw a guy on TV that Coca-Cola or somebody gave him a contract, and he was doing nursery rhymes, and they signed him to $1 million contract, and he was presenting his nursery rhyme to us on the TV as though it was an adult presentation of cognition and a graduate, discourse of some sort. What up, what up, what up? That's what he was doing. What up, what up? You. I did what you did. And, the true is the blue and I'm due. And he was giving some sort of mentally retarded discourse on rhyming. And Coca-Cola evidently signed, or one of these companies signed him to $1 million contract. So the person went to high school, graduated, and learned some Shakespeare and reads their Bible, so to speak, in America. They don't get $1 million contract from the devil. The one who's mentally retarded, who's violent, who was aiding and abetting in a murder, he gets the contract. So there you have it. It goes back to our lesson. He who now restrains. Okay, restrains means he slows down. He obviously not stopping evil. If this soda corporation gave him $1 million contract to a man who spent 10 years in jail in California for being holding the gun of a murderer or whatever, and he gets a contract for $1 million, and Joe around the corner, the police officer who got A's in high school, worked hard, and puts his life on the line, he doesn't get $1 million contract. So the dollar bill is true. Good deeds have not so good rewards, but bad deeds and bold deeds They have good rewards. Okay, well, yes, off and on, that's a true statement. That's why it's on your dollar bill, because the bankers who put that on the dollar bill are in prostitution, drugs, and ripping off the citizens of America with usury. So they put it on the dollar bill, and how can you say they're wrong? You can't. You can't refute it. You can't repudiate it. It's unassailable, because they've done evil and wickedness, and they're filthy rich as the Illuminati. So that's the world. That's the real world you live in. And the basic premise that the Lord teaches us, that righteousness is a posthume event, whereby that your rewards in Matthew chapter 5, 6, and Luke 6, your rewards are posthume, after you're in the rapture. When you're outside of your body, that's when you get your rewards. And the Lord contrasts that over and over again, that's the basic modus operandi that He's going to allow to exist for 2,000 years, is that Christians are going to practice righteousness in secret, and they're going to be rewarded when they get into the rapture. But the people of the world, they're going to be rewarded now. That's why the Master said they have their reward. And you can easily see that, and we can go to Matthew chapter 6. The Master's always contrasting Babylon and people of the world enjoying the world because it's their world. And if the Christian has put himself outside of the world, he has put himself in contrast to the world. Therefore, when the world is over, that's when he gets his blessed state, which is the Lord has redefined or clarified what the word blessed means, which is the first word He says when He starts teaching. And that is that the state of being happy is based upon a posthume proposition. That the Pharisee and the Muslim who's jumping up and down, sawing off somebody's head, who's a Christian or who otherwise an American, all these people, the fake politicians, the abortion people, the gang members who love shooting people, all this stuff, they're getting their reward now. They're enjoying it immensely. They enjoy doing what they do. That's why they do it. However, the Master is telling you that's the only reward they have. And you can let's go to Matthew 6. Verily I say unto you, they have their reward. So what is He saying? That the crowd is applauding them for being evil, and that's all they get. And all you got to do is go to the first word the Master says in His teaching, which is blessed. Blessed is a posthume state of being. That's quite clear for a fifth grader who's paying attention to the grammar here. Now, there are millions of American people around these plateaus who don't understand that. But that means that mass psychosis and mental retardation is heavily, it's thicker than the lava that I just saw on TV. It's overwhelming right now. The mental retardation in the so-called church and in the world pertaining to what blessed means. That's why the American dream is also, the American dream is not biblical. Why? Because the Lord just said blessed is when you're dead. So you come on TV as a Republican and tell me that you're blessed out of your socks, and you listen to Norman Vincent Peale, the positive thinker, like the president or somebody mentioned. Okay, that's not Christianity, and please leave us alone. You're dismissed because we only have one teacher here. I don't have multiple teachers. The Lord, my Master, said, "Blessed are you, for you shall." I don't know if you know what the word "shall" means. It doesn't mean now. And it's the same thing as when you get to Luke 6, and you shall be called the sons of God. Let's go there. Let's go to Luke 6 as I hammer home a few main ideas in this ministry. For some of you are going to say, you've been saying it quite often, but this deserves our attention. That's why we're doing it. For you shall be children of the highest. Okay, that's obvious. that the Lord is telling you that you're not necessarily a child now. That's the point. It's based upon the practice of you living a life like Father, of being merciful. Father lives on a high plane. He lives in Zion or in heaven, and that high plane is not just a high place physically, it's also a high place psychologically. That's the point. And when you live on the high plane of the agape mind of love and truth, like Father does, being very compassionate, very forgiving, speaking the truth in love, then you're going to be called, shall be called, shall. Why does the Lord say shall over and over again? Because people who are paying fourth grade grammar attention will get this. Now I had someone mention to me the other day, how come the masses are not paying attention to fourth, fifth, eighth grade grammar? Well, that's not for us to deal with. We who are Quaker types here, who read our Bibles, go to bed early. Abraham Lincoln, we chop our own wood. I don't want slaves. I don't want flunkies. They just had some sort of movie star, Democrat on TV who said you have to wear a mask or something, and you better do this, and you have to be 6 feet apart. But they had their walk in front of the camera. They were hugging other Hollywood stars. No 6 feet apart, no mask. And then they said you can't have a gun. You can't own a gun. But they have bodyguards with guns. But they tell you. Then they tell you you can only have 6 lights on in your house. That's the way to do things. But one of the spearheads telling you that you can't have lights in your house on certain days has water fountains surrounding his house for his own art, for his own horticulture, and he has 50 lights on in his home. So this is the real world. Hypocrisy, lies. And they who are part of Babylon, they love each other. But they'll tell you on TV or whatever, you Protestants, that you deserve to be restricted and you deserve to be punished. That's why it's good for many of you Protestants to just leave your TV off. This is Jeremiah. We're on number 5 here, I think. I'll probably make this number 5 as we wrap this up. Don't hurt the Protestants. So, living in peace as a servant of the Lord, a child of the Lord Jesus Christ, and you're walking the path of truth, and you're a saint, which means you're devoted to holiness and purity, and you've been through some battles, and you've got some character and stable, you're rooted and grounded, you put on the full armor of God, and you've listened to the commandments of the Lord for humiliation. And if anybody disturbs you under any circumstances, that's the point. Whether they prevaricate, twist your scriptures, whether they misrepresent your scriptures and your stance, they take your good and twist it and say it's evil. They get in the way of your conversion process. They take to the damnable heresies of the cults and so forth. They join the occult, or anything that's in error that harasses a Christian, a servant of the Lord. That's what this is. They're hurting the Protestant. And any obstacle to clean living, trying to drag you away, these bars around here should be shut down essentially. Now God wants them to be up there so that He can purge people. But the people who have the bars, who invite people in and quickly give them a drink, they're evil people. They're not forcing people to drink, but they shouldn't make the bars right across the street. Let's put it that way. So productive living as a holy man, and anyone who gets in your way, Satan or his minions, who offer you opportunities to forget about being a Christian, to take your attention away from serving the loving Son of God. It puts any type of hindrance to peace preachings and so forth. Any follower to Mr. Love, any follower to Mr. Truth, to Mr. Peace, you don't want to get in the way. Any blockage of Adam's new goal, because I'm Adam, you're Adam, we have a new goal now, and that is to bring heaven's lifestyle down here to earth. That's our goal. And in my actions, your actions as a servant, to produce love on the earth in the highest form, which we might want to call perfect love, but I don't use that term too much. I need to use that more, because that's what Christianity is. Jesus is perfect love. Agape means perfect love. It means complete. It means it's intellectual love. It's not just care, it's intellectual. It's high. It's the highest. It's the deepest by far. It is the most satisfying love and feeling and thinking. And let's point that out. But that's the Zion love. That's the high love. And Adam's new goal is to engage this new love and this high love and this high intellectualism and to share it. And a lot of people are going to get in the way. And God's going to hold them accountable. And that's what this lesson is about. Don't get in the way. Don't aggressively. There's a group called the ACLU here in the United States that is a recent wicked organization that aggressively harasses Christians for spreading the love and the forgiveness of Jesus Christ. And it's going to be very ugly for each one of them individually. God's going to assess them individually at the GWT in Revelation 20. And what they're doing is they're harming people who are essentially very caring people. And that's just the worst thing to do. We're almost done here. We can go to Matthew 5:29. And if, for it is. So and if means that you can offer, or let's put it this way. And if means you can offend. And that means that you have the volition, and if. And the Lord is saying that any person or any man or any person can offend. And that one who offends is offending the law of 2,000 years, which is what? Under the new covenant of Christ's church, they are offending the law. They are blocking the freedom of everyone or certain individuals to obey the royal law, which means human beings now have what God has deemed a royal law, that humans can now enter into love and truth now that they didn't know. See, humans basically only know affection. They really don't know what love is. The word phileo is not a strong term for love. It fluctuates. It's a roller coaster of human emotions. But God's love, once in a Christian, or God's love on its own, is constant and strong and is extremely satisfying. So the point is that you're an offense because you are blocking individuals from receiving that love for 2,000 years under different people's names, Jesuits, Muslims, whatever, politicians, whatever, ACLU. You're blocking that love from being delivered. And the Master is saying that, and if. So that means if any man or person does offend, he says that they can offend based upon their own will. They can do these harmful offenses, and that offense is breaking his royal law of 2,000 years. Not only are you not coming to the Son of God, just shining him on and say, forget about the Son of God, there are also instances of people who are blocking the gospel from being taught and so forth. So, and if, for it is better, now the Master is going to get into, for it is better. If we're going to turn to Mark 9, we can go to Mark 9, and we can go to these scriptures that give us the precise scriptures as to what is the offense, who's offending, and what's going to happen to you. That's what we're talking about. And it can be a lifestyle, it can be a moment in time, but the bottom line is that it is better is what we're going to talk about now. For it is better. And let's go to Let's go to 42. And whosoever shall offend one of these little ones. So there you go. Whosoever, once again, is the term I mentioned in the earlier videos. That term is an indefinite pronoun, and it means that Jesus sees every human being. And he's saying that whoever out of all of human beings does this offense, it's just, you're toast. It's better to commit suicide than to enter into harming innocent people. That's the point. Now, once again, Jeremiah is not saying he's promoting suicide. The master is not promoting suicide. What he's saying is, and I want you to listen closely, that's not what the master says, that's not what I'm saying. What the master is saying here is that for a person to go out and start torturing and killing and harming children, babies, innocent people who are out loving and caring for people, it's better for you to have done something to stop yourself. That's what he's saying. Because that goes on your record. These Muslims, they just had some Muslims on the web here. They were sawing off a lady's daughter's head, and they were laughing while they were sawing off the head. Well, listen, all of these things that are going on, it's better for these people that they were never born, as we just looked at. It's better that they never had an opportunity to do so, because the master uses the word for whosoever. For it would be better. See, that's the point. For it is better for him. There you go. And that goes right back to the title here of Don't Hurt the Protestant. I've seen proud people come after me when I mention anti-abortion things, and they've aggressively come after me. And what I'm dealing with is a devil. What I'm dealing with is a demon-possessed or a demon-oppressed individual. They're either possessed or oppressed, which means they're under the control of evil ideas as being okay. They're promoting evil ideas such as it's okay to harm a child up to 9 months. And of course, if you're going to harm a child in a womb up to 9 months, you'll harm one after the child is born. That's common sense. So let's keep going. So the call to sainthood deals with pride and the ownership of pride to those who want to contrast. As we get into simple scriptures which deal with the master saying that there's only two teams. You're going to love one and hate the other. That's what he means. And obviously we're dealing with the people who are going to offend. They're on the other team. I think the word Allah means cursed in Hebrew. It basically means oppose, cursed, or Satan. So a lot of people have gotten upset at me, and of course if I was in Iraq, I'd probably get my head sawn off just by mentioning that. But we're here in America, and there's a certain amount of, the Lord will not let certain people be harassed by speaking the truth. In spite of this restraining order that the Lord has on the devil, or rather under the conditions of the Lord having restraint on these offending parties. So don't physically harm in any area or sin, a direct attack, and the saint is going to have to endure these things, and that's called the patience of the saints that leads to the ownership of the soul. So that gets into another area of what's going on personally with the people who are going to endure these certain types of offenses. But let's let that go right now. We're just about done with this. I don't have a problem seeing ahead of time what's going to happen because the Lord reveals things to his prophets. So I can see what's getting ready to happen here. Which heart do you own? Let's talk about that for a moment. There's only two hearts. There's a heart of love and a heart of hate. And there really is very little middle ground. The fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom. And we who have the love of God also have the respect for his position. And they tie in together. To love the Lord your God with all of your heart is also to respect God. So you're going to also have confidence in God and what he can do, because love is confident in love. Love is confident in truth. Love cannot, when it's on a high level, it cannot divorce itself from confidence in reality. Love and high love can never divorce itself from reality. If you say you love something, that you own love, and you divorce yourself from reality, you're a liar. You don't have God in you. You don't have the love of God in you because you just acknowledged a lie. Love cannot acknowledge a lie. Love can only acknowledge reality and truth. That's why people come on TV and say, I love my dog, my cat, my hot dog. Those people, you can't trust them understanding what love is, because they just declared unto you that they don't understand what love is. Because love is not a hot dog. You can't bring love down to the level of a hot dog. You can't get burned by a lover and say that you have a love crime, such as they say in France. Nothing against my French friends, bienvenue, but that is an incorrect idea. That's called wrong. You can't hurt anybody because a lover burns you. People have changes of heart. It doesn't mean they're necessarily out to harm you. People are complicated. You don't have a right to attack someone because they tell you that they don't love you anymore. They may not necessarily be in love with you anymore. You have no right to harm people, and it's not a love crime. Love can't hurt anybody. Love can't believe a lie. God's love in you, when you have it inside of your heart, and it's fervent love of Jesus Christ, you can never acknowledge and own a lie. Never. You can never think about harming anybody and be serious about it. You can't do it. They're mutually exclusive. There's no such thing as a hate crime. All crimes are hate. That's mental retardation and mass psychosis on a wide scale. Now, let's wrap this up. I can go into some more psychology here. Offense means that all men can offend, and that offense is breaking the law under the 2,000-year covenant of what's right and what's wrong. And it's a concrete position for the world. And that's why the Master says, whosoever, for it is better. That means he's keeping track of every human being's activities, especially along the lines of attacking a Protestant, which goes back to the title. Don't you hurt and offend the Protestant. There's a record of it. He keeps record. It's based upon him watching over the convert, because the convert has said that he's going to love Jesus Christ. Consequently, it's a bad idea for you to hurt somebody who he just took in as a confidant. So the one who blocks all of these activities of love and truth, and the goals of love and truth, the goals of the love team, the goals of binding up the brokenhearted, the goals of setting at liberty with the implantation of God's deep love that changes your mind brings you, quiets the soul, brings you intellect, which also quiets the soul. That's the worst error a person can do. You want to impede, harm, slow in any way. And I mentioned suicide as a term of a metaphor more than anything else. The Lord is saying that it's better for you to commit suicide, meaning it's better for you to stop what you're doing and to put on a mind of putting that idea to death. That's what it means. You're going to put the idea of harming someone, you're going to kill it while it's in your brain. God told Cain that sin was on his doorstep, that he's pondering murdering his brother. But what he should have done when he first thought about it was cast that idea away. That's why the Bible said it's so important, is that we're learning how to take ideas that go into the brain and throw them away. Don't ponder them. I have one more quick video, and that's it. Maranatha.